the Revisionary Podcast with your host, Juan Carlos. The Revisionary Podcast.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Revisionary Podcast. I'm your host, Juan Carlos. If this is your first time listening, the way this works is we bring on a guest. Usually, they are a comedian. Not always, but usually. And they tell you a non-fiction story about their lives in which they wish things had gone a little bit differently. Afterwards, I give them an opportunity to tell the same exact story, except this time, they can change any facts or details that they would like about their story. So, this week, I'm actually really excited to sit down with who might possibly be the most energetic person I've ever had the pleasure of following on social media. That is right. For those of you guys who know her, she is the creator of the Divorce Diaries, and her name is Michele. I'm really excited to sit down with her because, like I said, I've been following her for a few years. Like, I don't even remember how I came across her Instagram, but she's always dancing and like just moving around, and I don't know, maybe I'm old. Maybe that's what's going on here. I'm exhausted just watching her dance. I'm like, oh, I can't do this. My energy doesn't match up anymore. But either way, she's gonna be here, and she's gonna tell you her story, so I don't want to go too much into it. But just all you really need to know is that she is a single mom who has created this whole entertainment brand around being divorced. So she took something that a lot of people consider a negative, and she's found the way to turn it into a positive. So I'm excited to speak to her about that and see how that goes. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get Michele on the line. Hello, Michele. How are you?
Hi, Juan. How are you?
I am doing phenomenal. Welcome to the Revisionary Podcast.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm very excited.
So, why don't we give the Revisionaries a chance to get to know you? Why don't you tell everyone a little bit about yourself? Introduce yourself.
Well, my name is Michele Traina. Michele with one L, and Traina with an A at the end, not any kind of...
Fancy.
Yeah, deaf, right? I mean, people... Deaf. I don't know why I think that it's good to say that, but I get a lot of people that spell it with two L's because that's another common way to spell it. Even when they see my name spelled out on Facebook, they spell it wrong. Even when they see my last name spelled on somewhere, they spell it with, like, I'm a trainer. I'm not a fitness trainer, even though I love fitness. I'm a trainer. Italiano. I am a comedian and a writer and an actor and a teacher, and I am the creator of Divorce Diaries, which is my one-woman comedy show about my divorce.
Okay. So many questions here.
Yeah.
Before we get started, let me ask you a silly question before we even jump into this story. What's the perfect sauce to noodle ratio? I mean, you're Italian, so I expect you to have the perfect answer.
Well, you shouldn't be drenching it in the pasta, but I do like a lot of sauce personally. So it should be like 2 spoonfuls on top, so you feel like the noodle's bare and naked on one part, but it's got a little bit in the middle. So if you drench it, then it gets to be too much. There's like it's not a good ratio. But I'd say you put a little bit more pasta than sauce ratio, and then you can mix it up. You put the grated cheese, the ricotta. There you go.
Ricotta, I like that. See, I'm Dominican, so when we make spaghetti, we use 4 jars, and then we add like 7 more. That's how we know it's done. Nice and saucy.
Do you know that I've met guys who put ketchup on pasta? That's a sin in my house.
So I told y'all that this is a judgment-free zone, but I lied. I'm judging you if you put ketchup on your pasta.
I mean, like, I get macaroni and cheese, like Kraft macaroni and cheese, and you have some weird craving. But do not put a ketchup bottle near spaghetti. Like, ugh.
Hold on. Do you get store-bought, or do you do that thing where you make all your sauce, once a year and then store it?
So I definitely make my own sauce. I make a quick sauce. I never buy the jar sauce. If I buy the jar sauce, it's because I'm in like some kind of weird panicked rush. But the quick sauce that I make is quicker than the sauce, and it's cheaper. And it's real simple. The spaghetti I used to make homemade before I had a kid, and it's simple too. It just takes a long time because I don't have a spaghetti maker. I roll it out and I slice it with a knife.
See, I know some of my good friends are Italian, and I know that like once a year they go around finding the perfect tomatoes, and it's like a big deal because I think they all do it at right around the same time a year. And then, like, they buy all these tomatoes and store up for, like, the next year.
Yeah, they that's what a lot of Italians do. That they put sauce in freezers and they label it because I think it's good for 6 months frozen. I have never frozen it just because we do it all the time, make it all the time. I should make big vats of it and freeze it. My recipe is amazing and it's short, quick, and to the point, and I love it.
You trying to share? Not on air though.
No, I can share it. It's totally fine. I love if you make it, like, tell me you liked it. It's tomato paste, water, sugar, garlic, salt and pepper, and garlic. And I'll it's real easy.
Oh, this is super easy.
Because tomato paste is like 50 cents in ShopRite. If you're making it for 2 people, you get the tomato paste, garlic and olive oil you should already have in your house. Salt and pepper you should have in your house. Sugar you should have in your house. So you buy those things in a sum for the month. Your sauce is costing you 50 cents. And you can also put fresh tomatoes in it, but if you're on a budget, you put you get a little bit of garlic. You brown the garlic in. I think it's a half a tablespoon. Now I know how to make it so much that like I don't measure, but I think it's half a cup or half a quarter cup of olive oil. You put the garlic in. You brown the garlic. You take the tomato paste, scoop it out, and then you take 3 cans of water, pour it in. Sugar, I think it's half a cup of sugar or a quarter cup of sugar, salt and pepper, and you stir and you season it. Like, it's up to you how sweet you want to make it. So the sauce comes out a little sweet, but it's good. Oh, so good.
All right. Well, there you guys have it.
Didn't think you were getting a recipe on your podcast, huh?
No, but here we are. It's here.
That's right.
Okay. So why don't you tell them a little bit about what you've been up to and like a little bit about your work?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have been working on Divorce Diaries now since 2015, and it's now been a full-time job since in the last year. I've always done it in conjunction with teaching full-time and my theater company, and now it's really taking a full-time position as I wanted it to. It's a one-woman comedy show, and it's also a TV pilot that I created. It's a TV series, but I'm self-funding right now. I'm writing it. I'm going to shoot it in June. I'm getting a proof of concept together. So all to grow the brand. And more importantly, to expand to my audience of single parents or people who have ever felt like they're the underdog. And I am the underdog, and I fight for them, and I fight for myself. Even if I get punched in the face, I just keep going. Someone said that to me today, by the way.
I want to tell you something. You're so progressive for writing a show which casts a female lead. I mean, bravo. We need more quality.
I mean, I think it's great. Now, I'm slow. Is that sarcastic, or you mean that for real?
No, that's not sarcastic. Okay, so I'm joking because... Let me explain.
Yeah.
I'm joking because it is a one-woman show, so obviously you wrote it. It is going to have a female lead. But I am highlighting that, the fact that traditionally a lot of movies and TV shows have had predominantly male leads. So I'm making light of an issue, but while teasing you about writing a one-woman show.
And the thing is, I should have prefaced by saying that the live in-person show at a comedy club is one woman, but the TV series is not one woman. It's me and the people in my life. So the characters I do on stage come to life in the series. The Office meets Seinfeld kind of thing. It's me and my best friend, my best friend Doug is also a comic, and he lives in LA, and we've known each other since high school. And he does, outside of me, he's the only, one woman show, an occasional feature of Doug Bass, who is also a groundling improver and works with me on the show. And then he's also in the pilot because he comes to film me in my life. And so how I wrote the pilot was that Doug follows me around with his camera in hopes that I get a television executive or a television producer to pick me up, pick up the show. Well, pick me up too. Right. Hey now. And so
she's single.
Yes, thank you. I am single and ready not to mingle with your ass if you're going to ignore me via text message. Whoops again.
Anywho, let them know. Snaps.
Snaps. Okay.
And I love the branding. Oh, hey, zoom in on the cup here real quick.
I'll get you one more. I'm going to get you one. I have them, and I have a couple extra, so I'll get you one.
I'd love one.
Love it. It's coming to you then. I love that you love it. And I love that it's tiny and it's pink and black. And it's just like my two favorite colors are on there. That's why.
So I actually don't tell people this often, but pink is actually my 7th favorite color.
7th?
Yeah.
Damn!
Yeah.
What's 8?
Listen, we don't need to get into this right now, all right? We don't have time for all that.
My 7th favorite color. Okay, I like that. Yeah, so Divorce Diaries has been the forefront of what I've been doing. I also have my own theater company, Propbox Players, which is a children's theater company specializing in inclusion performances for children with special needs. And I have, I do mostly virtual shows because of the pandemic, but now I got my 2nd vaccine, which I totally am feeling a little weird from right now. I definitely am fighting any feeling of weirdness too. I'm like, get away. You ain't gonna come in, mess up my day, vaccine, okay? I'm happy. Anyway, so I do Propbox Players as well, and I'm also an adjunct at a college. So I have a very busy schedule, but I've always been that way. I've always had like multiple different things going on in multiple jobs. Because I like teaching, I like performing, I like investing in business, I like investing my time in projects that mean something. So that's what it is.
Well, bravo, well said. You know what? I don't want to dilly-dally too much.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and jump right into this, Michele. The stage is yours. Go ahead and tell us your story.
So I am a single mom, and I set out to get married and live the happily ever after with my ex-husband. But I changed a lot about who I am when I first got in the relationship. I stopped performing. I covered up. And I dropped a lot of my male friends, if not like all of them, because I thought I was not allowed to have guy friends. I thought I was doing something wrong. And my ex-husband didn't actually make me feel that way, like intentionally. I just felt like awkward about it. And then I also built it into something that it didn't have to be. And I changed, and I suppressed who I really was for a long time. But within that time period, I was in love, and I wanted to dedicate my time and energy to my boyfriend turned fiance turned husband. I found a second love in theater through teaching. I really, really loved using the arts to help kids, and I found that theater is teaching, and that I can act every day, get paid a pretty decent salary, and practice my craft. So I did this, and how I facilitate and perform is pretty unique. And I later down the road created a theater company that specialized in that process. Mm-hmm. And then I wasn't happy in my relationship. I was unhappy for a long time, and the suppression of pushing down who I really am finally boiled over. And I was unhappy for a long time, and I tried to make it work, and it didn't. And I finally said, I don't think we should be together. And it was devastating to him, and I had to come up with a plan to move on. I had no money to really start on my own, so I had to rely on my family. I had to just rebuild financially, personally, and professionally.
So could you give us an example of of when you were not being yourself? Like, could you give us an example?
I'm a very flirty person, and I love wearing sexy clothes. So I stopped wearing sexy clothes when I wasn't with my ex-husband. And that was weird to me. My hair was brown, which it naturally is brown. But this is my spirit animal. This is me, right?
The blonde?
The blonde, the, high kicks over my head, that's me. I think that was a big thing. The clothes. I think not talking to my guy friends. One of my best friends is a man, and I lost touch with. I pushed him, and Doug, the guy that I just told you I did Divorce Diaries with, and we still stayed friends. But I definitely pushed him away, and he would be like, he would say, he's like, "What's wrong with you?" "Oh, nothing. No, I just I'm married now." So that was a big, big change. Now that broke my heart because he was a very important part of my life, and he is. Back in he's my family. I consider him my family. So I'm glad that has been resolved. But that was a huge part of how I changed.
What was there? Was there anything specific that was said that made you feel this way? I know you said that he didn't say anything, but like what I mean.
There was a couple of things that he did. He definitely was. You have to be very secure in who you are to have a girlfriend or a wife who's in performing arts, because they're going to be around other men.
Sure.
Other guys might like flirt with them. And I think that there was an issue earlier on that something happened and I told him and he was like, well, I don't like that. And I felt like I was doing something wrong and it made my experience in the play that I was in not good. And I wanted to just come home. I was doing summer stock theater, playing Mrs. Potiphar in Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. And I felt uncomfortable that I was doing something wrong. Because there's a dance in that musical that like Mrs. Potiphar has to dance with all the men. And it's very touchy-feely. And like, I got a weird vibe from him. And that triggered everything in my head.
May I ask what it was that happened? Was it just the dance?
One of the guys smacked my ass. And he just was like, I don't like that. And the guy was gay. Like, he's not interested in me, He's like, he doesn't like women. So I said that, and he's like, I still don't care. And I felt so weird from that conversation with him that I was like, oh, I guess I can't even do that. Like, I can't enjoy myself and have fun with my friends that I'm performing with.
How many years into the relationship was it before that incident occurred?
A year.
Okay. So just a year into marriage, you were already.
Oh no, that was a year into our boyfriend girlfriend. We weren't even married yet.
Wow.
we were just dating. Yeah.
Okay.
Started early on the suppression.
I see. So immediately as soon as the relationship started was when you already started changing your habits and your clothes and
that within a year that was the kickstarter. It was a year we started dating, and that's when I was like, oh, am I not supposed to do this? Because I hadn't changed a lot, but I also in the very beginning of a relationship was on the road, so we were on and off. We were together, but I wasn't consistently with him until so like
So let's back up here a little bit, just so, because if you're gonna be discussing your ex-husband, for the sake of the story, let's call him Brian.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know what his actual name is. I hope it's not Brian, because that'd be awkward.
It's not. I like that.
Perfect.
We're using an anonymous name. His name is Brian.
Okay, so let's start from the beginning. How did you meet Brian? Tell us the story of your relationship, like how it excavated, and what were the things you liked about him?
So Brian and I met at a restaurant that we were both waitering at in between acting gigs for me. He was still in college getting his undergrad, and I just was flirty with him, and he seemed to be responsive to me more than other men were. At the time, I was only 23, so at 23, there's not a lot of guys who are ready for commitment, and I have been ready for commitment since I was in kindergarten registration. And he was like the first guy that was paying me attention, that wanted a commitment. So I think that was one thing that kind of was a sign, and maybe I should just relax about rushing into a relationship, because everyone starts getting engaged and everyone starts having these long-term relationships in their early 20s, or 24 pops in and they're like, okay, well, where am I? Who am I with? So that's how it started. And then I was traveling a lot for theater, so he came to see one of my shows, which I was shocked. Cut to today, where there's a lot of men that I date that don't come to my shows. Same kind of thread. But Brian... No shade.
But shade.
No, I'm going to throw a lot of shade at that.
Ooh, it's feeling real cool over here.
Shade it up. Anyway, so that's how we met, and that's how we started dating. And I did definitely fall in love. I mean, I can't say that I didn't. Because then that would be like, well, I did feel something for him, especially in the beginning. I think when it started to get not great was when I felt like I was doing something wrong, and I had to share everything with him, which I don't think you need to do in relationships. You just need to have you just need to have loyalty. Some things you don't have to share with everybody. You can flirt, you can talk to other people, as long as you're being faithful, I personally believe. And I just don't feel like I just changed so much. I kept feeling like I have to just be committed to this person. I can't show my boobs. I can't have, if I'm not with him. And I look back at it, slowly but surely, I was becoming unhappy too. Mm-hmm. He was...
So, let me ask you this. What were some of his good qualities? Like, what were the things that you liked about him when we first met, besides him coming out to see your shows?
He was very calm. He was very calm in the sense that he wasn't as high energy as me, and he could like take me in. He'd listen. I think I grew up in a very high-strung household, in a loving household, but just very high-strung, and that helped. That comforted me, for sure.
Oh, so he centered you. It was very zen.
Yes, it was zen, but later down the road, I noticed this is the kind of zen that actually is going to be beneficial for me when you're stoned or you're just lazy or depressed. Possible options that he was. Not all the time. There was some times where he actually was there for me when I was having anxiety and not stoned and not, complacent. But there was definitely things where I feel like, yes, he could be quiet and calm, but I don't know if it was the zen I needed. Not the zen that's going to motivate you.
No, I 1,000% get that. Okay, so fast forward. So now you said the first instance was that when you were doing the acting gig and that guy slapped you on the derriere.
Playfully, like, and that was one.
So you went and told him, right? Because obviously he wasn't there, right?
Yeah, I was on the phone with him and I told him, and I don't remember why I told him. I just mentioned it. And he's like, well,
Did you just say it in passing like it was funny? Like, oh, ha, ha, ha.
Yeah, I think that's how I said it. I definitely think I started to, like, scratch my head and think, like, is Brian going to be... It's fine. And I've shared this with him. I mean, is he going to be uncomfortable with it? I mean, and his opinion was like, no, I'm not uncomfortable with it. But, like, he didn't want to see... Like, I did a movie before I met him where I had to be... Not completely topless, but I had a bra on and I was in a makeout scene, and he never wanted to watch the film when it came out. And I was like, why not? He's like, I don't want to see that. And it made me feel really bad. And at the time, I felt so ashamed that I did that movie. But when I had booked that movie, I was really proud of myself. And working on the movie was a good experience. So that was another time.
So, I mean, it seems to me, right, from an outsider's point of view, based on what you're saying, some of this seems to stem from insecurity. Was Brian a very confident man before you met?
I'm going to say that he was confident with certain aspects. He's a good golfer. He's very smart. He knows that he can be a good person to just listen to. Like, if you want to talk, he'll listen to you. But there's other areas where I think, like everybody else, he's not confident.
Sure, of course.
And I think the security of one's self and self-expression is an area that he wasn't super confident in.
Okay. Now, so that was your first incident. You said you were unhappy, but I assume that things were still going well enough because he proposed at some point, right?
Yeah, he proposed, but I kind of nudged him, and walk
me through that.
Yeah, so he told me within the first 6 months that he wanted to marry me, which was awesome. I was like, yeah, baby. Then 2 years rolled by, and I said to him, I'm like, so when are we going to get married? Like, when are we going to get engaged? Because my therapist brought it up to me. And I was getting my master's, and I said, well, I'm getting my master's because, like, I want to create this more quote-unquote stable career. But now that I look at it, stable career is something that you love to do nonstop. Anyway, so I brought it up, and then it just started the conversation. And it didn't start in a bad way. He didn't, we were talking about rings and excitement, and then he proposed like 2 months later. I think it might have been less.
Did you pick your ring out?
No, I showed him the shape I liked. I don't wear a lot of like expensive jewelry just because no one's ever bought me it. Besides my mom, like my mom, this was my mom's and she gave me but I don't have a lot of expensive jewelry. In fact, I don't have any expensive jewelry. So, which makes me a little sad, but I costume jewelry is fine for me. I don't need expensive stuff, but the engagement ring was very pretty. It was a carat. It was just a nice shape. But it wasn't me. If I really think about it, the ring, everything, it wasn't me. The proposal was not me, but I was so excited and happy to be getting married. I wanted to marry him. I did at the time want to be considered more than a girlfriend. So I think because I was like, I love him so much. What if something ever happened to him and I was just his girlfriend? And I used to have those thoughts. So I can't negate that I wasn't in love with him. We had a life together. We lived together. I went to school. He was an engineer at that point. And I looked forward to the day where we would have kids. I really did. I thought a lot of the things that he did would change once we had kids. And it didn't. But we also were later down the road in a very unhappy place. So nothing changed. It got worse. But
so let me ask you this then. Again, so I come from a Latino family, and I feel like there are a lot of similarities between like big Italian families, big families, and in terms of some of the cultural norms. So do you feel that some of this came from like the cultural pressures of where you should be in terms of a relationship?
Absolutely. But my family...
How so? Could you explain?
So I think that the cultural norm in a big Italian family is that you find somebody that's going to be a loyal guy to you, that's taking care of you, and you marry them. My parents did not support the relationship, though. That's not that they disliked him. They just didn't get the connection. They thought he was very different than me in a way that was not flattering. And, my mom knew from like the first day she met him. And she will not ever let me live this down. But, we had a child together. So things happen for a reason, But my family, like all my cousins were getting, not all of them, but some, like all had long-term relationships or committed relationships. I never really had boyfriend to boyfriend to boyfriend. They did. So I felt pressure. Like, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? Now, I don't give a crap. Like, clearly there's something wrong with me that I don't have consistent boyfriends. And guess what? I'm okay with it. Even though I cry in the fetal position at night that I don't have anybody to snuggle with, it's fine.
Well, I mean, first off, I'm sure there's nothing wrong with you. I'm sure you're wonderful. I mean, look, I'm not going to dispute otherwise, you tell me. But
I'm making a couple of my exes on the phone. They'll explain. No,
yeah, actually, why don't we bring them into this? No, I'm just kidding.
Well, yeah. I had somebody listen. I had a guy that I am friends with that I've been talking to, and he lives in Los Angeles. And he and I connect over like our conversations about the business and about personal life. And he's divorced too. And I felt like a huge connection. And I've never met him. Like, we've met through Zoom, but it was because of work. But I'm super turned on by him, and I've never physically been next to him. Mm-hmm. And he told me, he's like, "But Michele, it's not realistic. We live too far away." And I was like, "How could you reject my love?" He's like, "We just met." And I was like, "Still, it's love at first talk."
Yeah.
So he's like, "You're creating fairy tales in your head, and we just known each other for a couple of weeks." So I was like, "It's not fairy tales if you're manifesting it."
Yeah, you're just putting it out into the world. I get that.
That could be an issue, but I don't know.
So hold on, let's back up here. Yeah. So make sure we don't go too far down the road. So how long were you guys? You guys were together for what, 2.5 years before you got married?
Yeah, so we were together for 2.5 years before we got married. Yeah. Oh, that was good math.
Yeah, I'm paying attention.
That's good. Awesome. And then, so I think by the time we got married, it was almost 4 years that we were together.
Okay, and how long were you married?
6 years. No, 5.5. So I've been divorced now more than I've been married, than I was married. So we were married about 5.5, together almost 9 years. And then I got divorced 6 years ago. 6 years ago, April 26th.
Oh, well, that's... Okay, got it. Okay.
My divorcery. Come on, I gotta remember that.
Yeah, I don't know. Is that a thing? Like, do people go out and celebrate and have shots?
I do.
Do you?
Why not? People want to celebrate their wedding anniversary. I'm gonna celebrate my divorcery.
You know what? I support that. And it's funny because it was something that I was going to bring up to you. I think it's interesting that a lot of people, when they hear someone gets divorced, they treat it as if it's like sad news. And I'm sure it is for some people, right? But for other people, like, they can reclaim their happiness. You know what I mean? Usually,
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. I won't tell you your story. Go ahead.
No, I love that you reclaimed your happiness. I said this a couple of times on some podcasts that I've done, and I love this statement that divorce helped me find Divorce helped me get back my identity.
No, look, I absolutely get that. That's what I'm saying. People sometimes treat divorce as if it's a bad thing, but people don't get divorced because they're happy. You know, if you're at the point of divorce, you're probably very unhappy. And I'm not saying that I support or don't support divorce. What I am saying is that, like, you know, if two people are miserable, then, you know, maybe for them, that is the best choice.
Right, exactly. And also, like, we were both miserable. So I just felt like it was the best choice. And I finally started to get back to a place that I was longing to be a long time ago. And no matter how hard things get, I'm so happy that I'm back in my own skin again.
So let me ask you this. If you could go back and revise the story as per the podcast, tell me what you would change about your story.
I'd like to say that I would never have left performing in my 20s. I mean,
sure.
The thing is, if you change things, then, you know, you don't get... There's a musical called If Then, I think it's called, and it's about how no matter the two versions of what would have happened in her life, she still met her husband, she still got her career stuff. It just was two different paths. So if I really had to change something, it would have been never to leave performing full time.
Okay.
I would have continued doing it. I should have never, you know, pushed down who I was to accommodate another person.
So, I mean, really quickly, why don't you go ahead and have fun with this? Retell me the story with your changes.
So I meet Brian, and I express to him that I'm going to keep performing. And oh gosh, I don't know if I should do that. Okay, I'm going to keep performing, and he's okay with it, but he struggles with it. And we, you know, have a baby, and he still struggles with it, and we get divorced because that's what's supposed to happen for me to create divorce diaries. We are amicable about it. We are not in a hateful place. He does not gamble away money of mine. Not that he did that or anything. And
wow.
And I do move in with my parents because I need support. And I continue on just like I would as if the story hadn't changed from divorce on. But that middle part of me suppressing myself changes.
So let me ask you this. If we were to bring Brian into this chat, right? If he were here sitting, I don't know, on the third couch, if you will, the proverbial third couch.
Proverbial third couch, yeah.
How would he describe the relationship and the wedding from his point of view? What would he say went wrong?
He would say that I was the one who brought it up, and that all of a sudden we got married and I started to shift my feelings.
Okay. May I ask, shift how?
Well, I started working at a school, and I started to have feelings for somebody there, which became evident. And then he, you know, felt the distance. He felt me like be disconnected from him.
Okay. Got it.
He would have said I had an emotional affair, which I don't think I did, but I definitely had feelings for somebody else that I never shared with that other person, but definitely it did get in the way. It would have been someone, if it wasn't just for that guy, it would have been someone else because I wasn't happy. But yeah, he would have said I had an emotional affair.
So it sounds to me like what you're saying is that the current situation that you were in, not current situation because you're not in it now, but y'all get what I'm saying, revisionaries.
Yes,
don't judge
me.
Hey. the situationship that you were in just created enough of a space for it to be filled. I don't like this imagery. This is not what I'm trying to say. You get what I'm trying to say, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that no matter what, there's certain things in your life that are meant to happen. And, you know, no matter which way you take it, those things happen. And I think, okay. Yeah, and I think that if they don't happen in certain circumstances, they happen in others, you know?
So let me ask you this now. If you had not pulled back from performing, right, where do you think your career would be today?
I would have gotten more. I would have gotten on to SAG. I would have made it closer to equity sooner. I would have been, I hope I would have been on UCB improv team. I wouldn't have stopped. I feel like I would have been doing then what I'm doing now. And then maybe now I would have been in a relationship and having the kid. But at the same time, I wouldn't prefer it. I feel like I'm hungrier this way.
Mm-hmm. And it's something interesting that you said to me is that you would still get the divorce because you felt that was an important part of your story and your life story. So now, without it, right? If you had kept performing, do you think you would have? How do I explain it? The way you would have approached the way, the shows that you're developing and the things that you're doing, would that have changed? And if so, how?
If I would have gotten married, if I wouldn't have gotten married.
No. What I'm saying is, so you stopped performing, right? You got divorced. You wrote this whole, you started writing all the characters and developing the show, and you're saying that that the divorce has made you hungrier, right? This is what you've said to me.
Yeah, putting on hold my performing career, and then jumping back into it. Now I feel like I'm more hungrier than when I was when in my early 20s.
Right. So what I'm saying is, if you had kept performing throughout,
okay,
right?
Yeah.
Would the fire have ignited as brightly as it did because you felt like you were making up for lost time?
Yeah, I think it would have been a different story. I think that I've always been a tenacious person, so something would have driven me still with that fire underneath me, but maybe I would have gone into different directions with it. I think that it would have continued going. I don't doubt that, but I would be curious to know how, because I feel like divorce is the central theme of like how I'm going to get to the finish line, and then go to the next marathon.
Yeah, I do. And let me ask you this too: has it been difficult to, I guess, kind of relive this constantly through the work that you're doing and through like all the conversations?
No, I love it. I do. I love it because it's healing. I like making people laugh about my experience, and it's therapeutic. So I love reliving it.
So you find this cathartic? Absolutely,
110%.
I just wanted to use the word cathartic to show you that I made it past high school.
Yes, it's cathartic, baby. And I think that's how people heal, learn, and grow.
What is something that you would say to someone who was going to get married? Like, what do you feel that you could have done differently to ensure, that you wouldn't have lost yourself or any of the bad stuff that you were describing?
Don't be afraid to stick in your own shoes. Don't be afraid to be who you are because you're afraid it's making somebody else uncomfortable. That's what it was doing.
You know what? I think that's great advice. So, before I let you go, we have 2 traditions on this podcast. Yes.
Yes.
The traditions portion. This is the fun part. No, I'm just kidding. The first is we ask every at the end of every episode, we like to highlight a charity or an organization, and we try to make it match with something that our guest is passionate about. Do you have a charity or an organization that you're passionate about?
Well, yeah, I'm choosing St. Jude's because it's a children's hospital going towards research for children's cancer and any other illness that, cancer treatment and research. But my mom always donates to St. Jude too. And when my dad passed, I think they made a huge donation to St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital for under my dad's name. So that's why I choose St. Jude's, and also because of my connection with my work with kids.
Okay, perfect. The second tradition that the Revisionaries and I look forward to is at the end of every episode, we like to ask our guests to please share a quick childhood story that puts a smile on their face or just generally makes them feel warm inside when they think of it.
Oh, I love this. I used to go to a pool, my uncle's pool, every Sunday in the summer with all of my cousins, and we would have high dive contests, but we didn't have a high dive. We did a regular dive. And that was the highlight of our every Sunday in the summer. We would just act a fool, play Marco Polo. The reason why I think of this moment and smile is because it's such a big part of my childhood that I looked forward to all of the time. It was my happy place, and it still is, like, in my memory. So it was a pool, your cousins barbecue till 7:00 at night. They had a huge backyard where we roasted marshmallows and s'mores. We talked about they had a cabana, like an old school cabana.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and like we would talk about like what bases we got to with boys. I didn't even know what bases were, so I had to lie. And my cousin.
How do those work?
Right, I was like, "What's a base?" And I didn't even and I had a lie that I didn't. I had a lie about my period and making out with boys, both that I didn't do. Like, I didn't get my period till I was in high school, and I didn't kiss a boy till I was in high school. So I had to like lie about it all. So like those were fun, like just like silly fun memories of your cousins in the summer in a big old pool that your family built from the scratch. Everyone in my family built that pool from the ground up too.
That's pretty cool.
Isn't that cool? My dad was 5 years old, and it was like a family tradition.
That's really, really cool. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny because you inspired us. Like you telling that story reminded me of a story that like I'll share with you really quickly.
Yeah.
When I was a kid in the Dominican Republic, my aunt and cousins, they lived in a house, and in front of the house there was kind of like this broken wall. Mm-hmm. And I don't know why your story inspired this, but it reminded me that like my cousins and I, we would like quote unquote go out and play Mario on the wall because it looked like, you know, those like little blocks that you jump on and Mario to get across platforms.
Yeah, I love that.
So we'd walk and we're like, whoa, 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 whoa. Bum, 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 bum. You know, like,
whoa. Jump and hit the question mark.
We would do all of that. Yeah.
Oh, that's a sweet memory.
Yeah, which looking back on it was kind of silly because I was like, yo, we could have literally fell off this wall.
Love those stories where you're like, wow, I really was threatened with life. When I threatened myself when I was a kid. You don't realize when you're a kid. You don't have adult fears like that. But it's so liberating to have those moments and fun and free and innocent. I love it.
The other thing is I seem to recall, like, I feel like apartments were so much bigger. You know what I mean? Like, I've gone back to some of the childhood apartments and I was like, oh my God, this place is tiny. Mm-hmm. But to me as a child, it was so massive. Mm-hmm. You know?
Same.
But I want to say thank you so much for coming on the Revisionary podcast. You have been wonderful, and thank you for sharing your story, because I know that you talk about this stuff often, but for some people it is a very difficult conversation to have. And also I think it's an important story that you share, because I want to make sure that other people who are out there listening to your story, they know that they're not alone, that other people have gone through these things as well.
I appreciate you and for having me on this. This is awesome. I love sharing my story and being a part of a platform like this. So thank you.
No, absolutely. Before I let you go, do you have any last words for our revisionaries?
Just keep being you and loving what you do every day. If you have something in your life that you're passionate about, like, go out and do it.
And where can they follow you?
DivorceDiaryShow.com. It has all my social, and it has information about upcoming in-person shows and the Indiegogo campaign and my podcast and just sharing the love too. You can just kind of post your own divorce story on my website. So right on there.
Perfect. Well, on that note, thank you so much, Michele. Bye.
The Revisionary Podcast.
You know what I love about that is that, again, she reclaimed it and she like repurposed it, and like now she's making a TV show out of it. You know, it's a whole brand that she started and like taken and ran with, and like that has been what has set her apart. You know, because there are a lot of people who would have handled this situation a little differently, but she's still going for it. She's still pursuing her dreams, and I honestly think that that's absolutely beautiful. And I support, you know, people who find a way to find positivity in every environment. I think that that is such a wonderful thing. So, you know, I want to say that, and I also want to say shout out to all of you single moms out there. I imagine that, you know, being a single mother, being a single parent in general. Let me take a step back. Shout out to all you single parents out there, because I imagine being a single parent is difficult. I don't know how you guys do it, but I have a lot of respect for the things that you do, and I'm sure your kids appreciate it as well. So shout out to you guys, and I want to say to all the listeners out there, thank you very much for tuning in to another episode of the Revisionary Podcast. You guys are the absolute best. And as always, thank you for listening.
This is the